We often hear about dopamine as the feel-good chemical in our brains, but its influence is far more profound than just giving us pleasure. Dopamine is about motivation, action, and the pursuit of meaningful goals. It's about pushing us towards growth and enabling us to change who we are over time. Every single one of us has the power to harness dopamine effectively, to steer our lives in the direction we truly want, and to transform ourselves in the process. So, what exactly is dopamine and why is it so influential? Dopamine is a neurotransmitter, a chemical that sends signals in the brain. It has many roles, but one of its most crucial functions is that of a motivator. Think about the times you felt an urge to achieve something, even in small ways, like organizing your space, starting a workout routine, or pursuing a new skill. That initial spark of excitement or interest, it's often dopamine at work. It drives us to take on challenges, to learn, and to explore the unknown. What's fascinating is that dopamine isn't just about the rewards themselves, but about the pursuit of those rewards. It's what keeps us motivated to continue climbing, even if the peak seems distant. This anticipation, this drive to achieve is what dopamine gives us, and is why mastering dopamine is so central to our personal growth and fulfillment. But there's more to it than just feeling good and being motivated. Dopamine operates on cycles, and understanding these cycles can help us avoid some common pitfalls. Let's dive into a concept that many of us have experienced: the highs and lows of dopamine, or what we call peaks and troughs. Picture dopamine as a wave. When we experience something exciting or rewarding, dopamine surges, creating a peak. This is why we feel energized and motivated in the heat of a new project or while achieving a significant goal. But after every peak, there's a natural dip, a trough. This is when dopamine levels drop, sometimes even below our baseline, and we feel less motivated or even a bit down. This cycle is natural, and it's critical to understand it because many of us unknowingly get stuck in a pattern of constantly chasing peaks, trying to stay in that high energy, high motivation state. The problem is that the more we push for constant dopamine peaks through high stimulation activities like social media, overworking, or even using stimulants, the more likely we are to deplete our dopamine reserves. And when that happens, we fall into longer, deeper troughs, feeling tired, unmotivated, or even burned out. The secret to managing dopamine is balance. True productivity and true fulfillment don't come from endless peaks, but from understanding and respecting the rhythm of dopamine. We need to find joy in both the highs and the moments in between, and that's where sustainable growth lies. So, how can we manage our dopamine levels to stay motivated and avoid burnout? One powerful approach is to set realistic, intentional goals. Small, achievable milestones can create sustainable dopamine waves. Instead of setting one massive, overwhelming goal, break it down into steps. Celebrate each small victory and let each step fuel you for the next. This allows your brain to experience dopamine releases in a steady, balanced way, rather than riding an emotional roller coaster of extreme highs and lows. Let's take an example. Imagine you're working on a major project. Perhaps you're writing a book or training for a marathon. Instead of focusing solely on the end goal, break it down. If you're writing a book, focus first on the outline, celebrate that step, then move on to writing the introduction and celebrate that too. Each step can serve as a small dopamine peak, giving you the motivation to keep going without overwhelming your dopamine system. This is a way of pacing yourself, of keeping that momentum without burning out. Another valuable tool is rest. Yes, rest is one of the most powerful ways to maintain healthy dopamine levels. Practices like deep breathing, meditation, or what's called non-sleep deep rest can help reset our dopamine and bring us back to baseline. Think of NSDR, or simply slowing down your breath and relaxing for a few minutes as a way to refill your tank. It helps us replenish, so when we return to our tasks, we feel genuinely refreshed, motivated, and ready to tackle them again. This brings us to the concept of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change and adapt. Neuroplasticity is, in essence, how our brains learn and form new habits. When we repeat a behavior consistently, especially one that involves focused effort, our brains start to form new pathways that make that behavior easier over time. So if you're looking to form new habits, to exercise more, to read regularly, or to approach work with more focus, neuroplasticity is your ally. Through repetition, we can train our brains to adopt new behaviors and make them feel natural. One common misconception is that the brain loses this ability as we age, but research tells us that neuroplasticity remains with us throughout our lives. Our brains can learn new skills, adapt, and even recover from setbacks no matter our age. What changes over time is simply that it may take a little more conscious effort and intention to form those new neural pathways, but it's entirely possible, and it starts with focus and repetition. Think about something you want to change in your life. Let's say you wanted to develop a habit of reading more. Start by dedicating even just 10 minutes a day to reading. Set a time and make it consistent. Over time, as your brain adapts, reading will feel natural and you can increase the time. By consistently engaging in this behavior, you're encouraging your brain to form connections that make this habit part of who you are. We also need to talk about breaking bad habits, because dopamine is deeply involved here too. Habits, especially those we want to break, often form when we unknowingly use dopamine as a quick fix. For instance, think of the habit of endlessly scrolling through social media. Each time you get a notification, a like, or see something interesting, you get a little burst of dopamine. Over time, these bursts keep you coming back, sometimes without even thinking about it. This is because our brains are wired to seek that dopamine release. So how do we break these habits? The key is to disrupt the cycle. Instead of scrolling every time you feel bored, find an alternative activity that's healthier. Maybe it's going for a walk, reading, or simply taking a few deep breaths. Each time you resist the urge to give in to that habit, you're training your brain to find satisfaction in something else. With time, that cycle of habit will weaken and you'll gain greater control. One technique that can be very effective is what we call dopamine fasting. This doesn't mean avoiding dopamine altogether. After all, dopamine is vital for our well-being, but rather taking breaks from high stimulation activities that flood the brain with dopamine. So, if social media is a source of overstimulation, try taking a day off from it each week. You'll find that even a short break can help you return to these activities with a more balanced approach without that compulsive need. At this point, you might be wondering, what about managing dopamine in the long term? How can we use it to guide our lives more intentionally? To use dopamine to our advantage, we need to set both short-term and long-term goals. Short-term goals keep us motivated daily, while long-term goals give us a broader sense of purpose. Remember, dopamine is about the pursuit, not just the reward. So, if we can learn to find joy and fulfillment in the process itself, in the journey, rather than just the destination, we'll live more balanced, meaningful lives. This approach allows us to build a life filled with sustained motivation. For instance, if your long-term goal is to lead a healthier lifestyle, focus not just on the outcome, but on the daily habits that contribute to it. Enjoy the small wins, a good workout, a healthy meal, or a moment of mindfulness. Celebrate the journey and let those small dopamine boosts keep you on track. Finally, let's talk about resilience, because no journey of growth is without its setbacks. Every time we fall short or experience failure, it's natural for dopamine to dip. But it's important to remember that these troughs are part of the process. When we encounter setbacks, we need to remind ourselves that resilience is not just about pushing through, it's about taking moments to recharge, to reframe our perspective, and to get back on track with a renewed sense of purpose. One practical way to maintain resilience is to cultivate what I call a dopamine mindset. This mindset is about focusing on the growth that comes from challenges, on the lessons learned, and on the opportunity to start again with new insights. When we view challenges this way, they become less daunting. They become part of our journey toward improvement. I'm 45, but my biological age reads 24. For over 2 decades, I've journeyed across the globe, diving into the wisdom of world-renowned healers and cutting-edge scientists to uncover the secrets of healing, protection, and true longevity. Click the link in the description, and I'll send you a free guide packed with life-changing insights to strengthen your body and potentially add 10, 15, even 20 years to your life. Discover what's possible